Today is Friday, August 14th, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, mailboxes are being ripped out of the grounds in cities across the country. It's part of Donald Trump's plan to suppress the vote. We'll break it down with the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. There's a way you can use Donald Trump's tweets to fund grassroots organizations. Black Future Lab's Alicia Garza joins us to talk about defeat by tweet. Donald Trump has also been getting slammed by reporters at his press briefings. Y'all know, hashtag Trump Lives Matter. Ooh, that was such a delicious question asked of him. Also, we'll show you how Senator Kamala Harris responded to one of his little temper tantrums, plus the latest anti-Trump ads. Also, AFSCME's President Lee Saunders gave his keynote address at their annual convention. We'll show it for you. And we got some other stuff for you as well. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Just 80 days left before the 2020 election, folks. That's it, 80 days. We want to make sure that you are registered, folks. Go to vote.org to double check your registration. You can also register to vote. You can vote by mail, get election reminders, pledge to re-register, and you can fill out the 2020 census. All of these things, folks, go together because it's money that is on the line when we talk about the 2020 census. We will have more on that beginning next week right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And we talk about this election. Republicans are doing all they can to steal this election. Donald Trump has openly admitted that he is going to use the Postal Service. He is trying to purposely starve the Postal Service of money because of the push for mail-in balloting. If you want to know how vital mail-in balloting is, the state of Minnesota, last week had their primary, actually it was Tuesday. Guess what? They showed the highest voter turnout in 50 years as a result of mail-in voting. That is what Donald Trump fears. Here's the deal. If Trump was winning in the polls, you wouldn't see all of this, but he's not. And so the Republicans want to suppress the vote. They don't care if they are black, if they are white, if they are young, if they're old. They know that if they are able to get fewer people to vote, they stand a better chance of winning. Our goal is not to let that happen. Folks, what has been happening has been stunning, what we've seen during this pandemic. And again, Trump said on Fox that point blank, he is going to keep the money away from the USPS because of this very issue. This could be devastating in November, and so folks are doing all they can to stop it. Now, one day after he made these ridiculous comments on Fox News, we started seeing photos on social media of this. These are, look at this here. Please be advised that after 30 days of posting this notice, this USPS blue box located at 220 Tennessee Lane will be removed from service due to low volume. Alternative nearby USPS blue boxes can be found at this other address. But folks aren't buying that who work for the Postal Service. Residents of Portland and Eugene, Oregon, learn at least 31 mailboxes have been taken off the streets. Mind you, Oregon is one of those states where they vote by mail. Folks, the same thing has been happening in New York City, several other cities, and also in Montana. There's been no official communication from the Postal Service with state officials or residents, folks who work for the Postal Service, have been saying that it makes no sense. Not only are they taking mail sorting machines offline, they are removing them from locations. I got a text yesterday from a postal worker who said that a mail sorting machine in the south suburbs of Illinois has been completely removed. Now, here's the deal. If you want to sort mail, or let's say you were trying to save money and have fewer employees, why would you completely remove a mail sorting machine? Now, right now, they're saying low volume. But what happens if all of a sudden you see a massive increase in voting? Now you have more volume. Well, if the machine is still in place, you just simply bring it back online. Joining us right now is Cliff Albright. He is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Cliff, that is the real issue here. They cannot offer a real explanation for what they're doing because they have none.
Right, exactly true. And thank you for having me, Roland. And the fact is that we saw this coming a mile away, right? We were in litigation right here in Georgia on some postage issues way back in April. Way back when Trump first appointed DeJoy to be the Postmaster General. If you go back and you watch some of the coverage at the time, a lot of the people were talking about, oh, this is Trump's way of getting back at Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And folks like us were sitting here saying, this has nothing to do with Bezos. This has nothing to do with Amazon. This is about attacking vote by mail, attacking the post office in the midst of what is likely to be a national election largely by mail. And so we've seen this coming. This is another example where, file this under, y'all should have listened to black folks a long time ago, because we saw this coming a mile away. And so you're right. There is no explanation for this. There is no cost savings explanation. It makes no sense. Everybody knows, like asking the post office to make a profit is like asking the Army or the Navy or some other national service to make a profit. It's not about efficiency. It's all about the elections. It's all about stealing this election and the just blunt use of power and to like removing mailboxes. Who does that? Somebody who is desperate to win these elections. And as you said, all this is happening for two reasons. One, because of his standings in the polls, but two, because of what we've already seen in all of these states that have already had their elections. In Georgia, record turnout. In Kentucky, record turnout. Like you said, last week in Minnesota, in Michigan, record turnout. That's what has him so scared. And the more we see these results, the more you've seen these attacks on the post office ramp up.
And again, Cliff, when we begin to talk about, how they are trying to do this, we now, according to Vice News, they're reporting hundreds of mail sorting machines are being discontinued. And not just turned off, they are physically removing them from the post office. So as I said, if all of a sudden there's a dramatic increase in mail, the machines are gone, and they are essentially saying, well, you're gonna go back to counting by hand. That's why you have a mail sorting machine.
That's right. And you're seeing that. You're seeing the attacks on the very rates that they use, right? That now states will have to, if the states are providing postage, that they won't be able to do so at the 20-cent rate, that it'll be at the 55-cent. With one decision like that, they've literally tripled the cost of what it takes to even execute and implement a vote by mail system. And so we're seeing all these things. And part of the reason why they're attacking the infrastructure is because they know that there are folks, that there are loyal public servants, loyal, mail people who, if they have the option, if they have the ability, they're going to try to do right and follow the law. So how do you counteract that? You take away the very infrastructure that they use. You take away the mailboxes. You take away the sorting machines, like you were saying. Pretty soon they'll be taking away the trucks. But this is, again, all about voter suppression. And what we're seeing, there are a lot of folks that when we talk about voter suppression, when we sound some of these alarms, they'll say, oh, no, it can't be that. It can't be that they'd be going to such lengths. Folks have got to believe what they're seeing right in front of their eyes, right? This is nothing but just a blatant attack on the Postal Service. It's not even just about cutting back their funding or refusing the increase. They are literally trying to dismantle this service.
And here's also down what's stunning. The Postal Service, they have announced that because of what's happening, there could be major mail-in ballot delays. They sent letters to 46 states saying, hey, we may not be able to deliver these ballots in time. In Pennsylvania, the state is asking the state Supreme Court, as a result of this letter, to actually extend the deadline by which ballots can be postmarked. They want to extend it to November 6th, 3 days after the November 3rd deadline. We got that in going. And you mentioned in Kentucky, they have announced that they are going to also, again, be mailing out ballots. And what's crazy here that people don't quite understand, when you talk about mail-in balloting, while this is happening, Donald Trump and Melania Trump have requested their absentee ballots to vote by mail. And so they don't mind absentee balloting because Republicans have always done well in absentee balloting. They don't want mass mail-in voting because that means that everybody will be able to do it.
Right. And what you raised is so important about like the ways that like even some of these states and not all of them blue states, there are even some red states that are sounding this alarm. Right. And so but this is part of the reason why the Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee drastically increased their litigation budget. They knew that they were going to be following a strategy where they were going to be suing to try to limit access to the vote, largely to limit all these states that are trying to expand vote by mail. And so again, this is part of a very clear strategy that's got different layers to it. It's got layers that involves the attacks on the Postal Service. It involves the litigation against the states. It involves all kinds of misinformation about the vote by mail. Part of this is just to, even if they were to fail, let's say tomorrow that, the courts, the Supreme Court or whomever were to reverse all these actions. Let's say that Congress finally found a way to reverse some of these things. What they're betting on is that the damage has been done in terms of people's belief that vote by mail. We were already skeptical to begin with, but now we've got all these stories coming out. And so it's for them, they view it as a win-win. Either they get away with what they're doing, and that's going to limit the vote by mail, or even if it gets overturned, they will have decreased enough confidence that people won't use it, and then they'll be forced to have to show up in person, risking their lives, and then falling prey to whatever other voter suppression tactics they have waiting for folks showing up at the polling places.
Here's an anonymous letter that was posted from a postal worker. See, up until just 2 months ago, every letter carrier, clerk, mail handler, truck driver, etc., worked under one pretty simple philosophy: every piece, every address, every day. Everyone in the chain of custody for mail made sure every piece got as far along in the system as it could. And if it made it to my hands, in my office, it was getting delivered. That's how I've done it for my career, how the guys who have been doing it for 40 years have always done it. And that's literally how Ben fucking Franklin's guys did it. You can almost hear Aaron Sorkin's orgasm as he punches up the Bradley Whitford speech about the majesty of it all. But 2 months ago, it also is also when that abruptly stopped. After a couple hundred years, it just stopped. On the ground floor, there's a lot of arguing about who is ordering what and what's going to be permanent and what's going to be a trial run. But at the end of the day, the result is obvious. I go into my job every single morning and don't deliver hundreds of pieces of available mail that used to get delivered. The only reason given is some vague nonsense about operational efficiency and cost savings.
It's amazing. When we think about like these notions of American exceptionalism, right? There's these notions that there are some things that just could never happen in America, that could never happen in the United States, right? That you could never have somebody come and like just in front of our eyes just try to steal the election, whether it's by asking a foreign country for assistance or by attacking the Postal Service, which, like the person just said, has been around since, the founding of the country, right? And so, we have these beliefs about what is and is not possible. As Black folks in the country, we've always known that some of that stuff's been on shaky ground, right? We've always known that some of these notions of democracy are really negotiable, that you have some folks that, this concept of majority rule and democracy and one person, one vote, it's a cute idea, but when it doesn't suit their interest, they are willing to do away with it. That is what we're seeing right in front of our faces. There's some things that some folks have thought for centuries that they were untouchable, that all of them are being attacked. And it's happening right in front of our face. And some folks, even in the media, are still so shocked by it and still find it so hard to believe that it can happen in this country that they're not really giving it the coverage that it deserves. If we don't cover this issue of this voter suppression, both in terms of the Postal Service and the other forums that are taking place, then, we're going to be in for a rude awakening come November 3rd, November 4th.
That was a podcast former President Barack Obama was on. It's the podcast of David Fluff, who used to work for him. And he said, quote, that the Trump administration was trying to actively kneecap the Postal Service to affect mail-in voting, and that citizens must do all they can to protect the integrity of the election. But here's the problem that we're dealing with, Cliff. The House clearly wants to do something. Republicans control the Senate. Haven't heard a peep from Republicans, even Republicans from rural America, the very people who also can get hurt. See, that's the deal here. They will sacrifice their own people to cheat to win. That's what this is. This is trying to cheat to win, pure and simple, and they don't care. And so for Republicans to say nothing, they are just silent with what Donald Trump is doing.
It's silent and aiding and abetting, right? Like Mitch McConnell in refusing to move the new voting rights bill, refusing to move it forward. He's basically said, he's explicitly said, if we pass this stuff, if we pass these voting rights, if we make it a national holiday, if we expand this access, that Republicans will never win another election. He said this. Elected officials in Georgia have said this. They've come out their mouths in public. And they've told us, Donald Trump just the other day has said this, right? And so what we're seeing is that, and it's right, just what you said about, they're willing to sacrifice their own. It's the same thing. It's the mirror image of what's happening on coronavirus, right? That they are so willing and determined to act like this is not an emergency. And they're so satisfied with the fact that Black folks are being hurt disproportionately that they're willing to sacrifice their own folks. It's the same thing from coronavirus to the elections, to economic development in this country, right? It's the same thing over and over. This is how far some folks who are just trying to hold on to power will go. And Black folks have been experiencing this for decades, for centuries, and now the rest of the country is really getting a good look at what's in the underbelly of this democracy.
Absolutely. And I think, people need to understand they will lie, cheat, and steal in order to hold on to power. There's nothing that Donald Trump will not do. And so folks must be prepared. What are you telling people? Because, look, the reality is people can still request their ballot, but they don't have to mail it in. They can actually drop it off. Now we're hearing, Cliff, that Republicans are even going to fight drop-off boxes.
Right.
They're fighting that too.
That's right. They're fighting it all. And so, your question is, what do we say to folks? The first thing we say is that we recognize like the fears that they have, the concerns that they have, that they're not crazy, right? That these are real concerns, to affirm that. But, to also give folks the confidence that we have a plan. And so organizations like ours, the partners we work with, other organizations all across this country, our legal partners like Legal Defense Fund and Lawyers Committee and Advancement Project and ACLU, that there are folks that have a plan on how to deal with these things, right? One, we're litigating. Like I said, we're in litigation in 2 states right now around some of these issues. And so we're litigating to fight the litigation strategy that Trump and the RNC are using. We're fighting to force states to do right, to pay for postage, to use drop boxes, right? So that's one part of the strategy. But the other part of the strategy is, just getting good information out there to folks about, starting early. If you give it, you can't give it 2 days notice, right? You can't expect to ask for your ballot like a week before the election and to have any concept that is going to get there on time. And so trying to let folks know, if we start early enough, if we're vigilant enough, if we're fighting for some of these options like drop boxes and some other things, If we're fighting for codes and tracking systems so that we can track our ballots, then there is a way that we can continue to do what's already been done in all of these states during this pandemic, that there's already been record use of vote by mail, there's already been record turnout, that we can, even with everything that he's doing, that we can still fight this and overcome it. But the other piece of it is that we're also preparing backup plans so that if we can't get folks to use early vote, if we can't get them to do the vote by mail, then use early vote as much as possible. And if you're in a state that doesn't have early vote, then we just have to prepare and be ready for election day and do all the things we have to do to make sure that our folks are able to use their right to vote without risking their lives. And so that means giving out masks and giving out sanitizers and prepping for long lines and doing all those things that we need to do and getting accurate information out to people to fight the disinformation. So letting them know that their concerns are legit, but also letting them know that we have a plan on how to deal with this. If we work together, we win.
All right. Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Let's bring in my panel right now. Derek Holly, President, Reaching America, and political analyst. Also, Dr. Niambi Carter, and she's, of course, Howard University Department of Political Science, as well as Rob Richardson, the host of Disruption Now podcast. Derek, this is absolute cheating. This is what you're seeing here, where he just came out and said it. I am not going to give them the money because I do not like all of this mail-in voting. He is saying it. They aren't even hiding their effort to rig this election.
Sure, I'll go first.
No, I said Derek. I said Derek.
According to an NBC article, he pulled back on that statement. He said that he would sign any bill that had funding for the post office. And Roland, you got a haircut too, man.
Actually, let me correct you. Let me correct you. He said, I will, if they got to agree to some stuff that I want.
No, what he said was,
what did he say?
I will sign that bill if it include, he said, I'll sign a bill that included money for the post office if it gives us what we want.
That's what I just said.
What the American people want.
No, when he said what we want,
that's
he
what
ain't,
the quote is, bro.
No. When he said what we want, he ain't talking about the American people. He's talking about what he wants. Okay, really? Yesterday, Larry Yes.
I didn't make it up.
Hold up. This is no different than what Larry Kudlow said yesterday on CNBC when he made it clear. He's like, yeah, these Democrats, they want all this other kind of stuff in here. And he specifically mentioned voting rights. And so, look, they have some issues on this one here. What you have here, again, is a clear and a deliberate attempt. And in fact, again, you want to understand who we listen to. This is Larry Kudlow on CNBC. Here we go to my iPad.
So much of the Democratic asks are really liberal left wish lists. We don't want to have voting rights and aid to aliens and so forth. That's not our game, and the president can't accept that kind of deal. So much of the Democratic
That's not our game, Rod. President can't accept that kind of deal.
Yeah, look, yes, because the president is against democracy, and we ought to be very direct in what he's trying to do. They are trying to steal an election. They're trying to get rid of the rule of law. The Republican whole premise here for a long time has been that you don't need government. I think Reagan said government is not the solution, it's the problem. So they try to destroy it every way they can. And I guess they're convincing people by being so incompetent and then trying to actually destroy a system that we need in order just to have basic services in this country. So they want to destroy democracy. They want a dictatorship. They don't believe in rule of law. They don't believe in one man, one person, one vote. They do not believe in playing by the rules. They believe in just dictating and holding on to power. And we got to let people know that it's more than whether you like Donald Trump or not. It's not about if you even if you're a Democrat or Republican. Is do you want to have basic freedoms? You will not have them. If they can do this, if they can get away with just rigging the entire system, then they can do anything else. They can come after you. They can come after us and just make the rules up as they go along. So right now we have a democracy, but we're not guaranteed to keep it because this is we have to participate in this sport. It's not a sideline sport. We have to get out there, get involved, and there are things we can do. We can call our representatives, bug them, ring the phone off the hook. Make sure you understand going forward, we better win this election. And when we do understand the power of the Postal Service and that government can make a difference, and do not allow these people to fool you again. They're not trying to improve your lives. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to take power, take money, and take away opportunities for people. That's what they're doing, and we need to stay woke, stay free, and keep fighting.
Dr. Carter, was so laughable listening to some of these people on the right talk about this here. I saw this one tweet. This woman was like, she goes, "The Postal Service is not essential. The free market can fix this in an hour." Mm-hmm. The Postal Service is actually in the damn Constitution. It's literally written in the Constitution.
Well, I mean, I think all of this gets to this notion that if you start dismantling this system now for this election, the damage is going to continue beyond this election. So that's one part of it. We know that there are people right now who get medication through the mail, veterans, for example. We know that there are people who are waiting on checks to come in the mail right now and that are not having that mail come. I mean, in Ward 8, in this city alone, people are talking about going weeks, even months without mail. So, I mean, it's been a horrific moment, but this moment of sabotage and this sort of taking out systems, right? These mail sorting systems, telling postal workers they don't get paid overtime for delivering mail, stopping the workday at a certain hour. These will have long-term effects, and it will be difficult to change these things back, because once you rip a system out, it's much more expensive to put it back in. And they're hoping to cause this disruption because they do understand how essential the Postal Service is, not just as a way for us to communicate with each other, particularly for underserved communities. They also know how essential the Postal Service is for as a place of work, right? We have to remember that about 30% of that 20% of that workforce is African American. So the Postal Service does a lot of work in our varying communities. So we have to think about the protection of this service beyond just this election. Even though this election is the sort of most vital thing that's happening right now, there are going to be other spillover effects.
Derek, here's what's interesting. New Jersey is going to send out ballots to all 6.3 million residents. Republicans are whining and complaining and saying that, oh, this is awful and this just makes no sense as well. Listen to a Republican member of this Warren County Board of Chosen Freeholders. Quote, "It's a costly and inefficient way to run an election. We're going to see additional problems and delayed results." Derek, it's real simple. You're literally putting people's lives in danger by having them stand in long lines for hours to vote. I don't understand. If absentee voting right now is okay, why is this bad?
Roland, I really think, and if I can finish my statement, I just think this whole post office thing, it took off over the last couple of weeks. It just got wings now. It's just being overly politicized. And I got two homeboys. One I grew up with since the fifth grade, who works for the Postal Service. And I talked to him earlier before this call. And they were thrilled when this new guy came in as a Postmaster General, DeJoy, what's his name, DeJoy, because they were going to get a raise, a long time raise that they'd been needing. The second thing is, Roland, I looked up a story about this Postal Service. NBC News reported it this afternoon. And according to David Pattenheimer, U.S. spokesperson, he says NBC characterized the removal of hundreds of machines as normal business adjustments. The removal of post boxes, the mailboxes, was normal procedure in areas that the mail is declined. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this election, if we're going to have to stand in line or if we're going to do mail-in ballots, but I think the whole notion of them trying to steal the election and all these things, I just think it's being politicized. I really do.
But how's it being politicized when the president basically said the quiet part out loud? He said that this is why we don't want these mail-in ballots, because it will mean a loss for us. So what do you mean that it's being politicized? Yeah, absolutely. It is being politicized. This president has made it his business to go after any attempt to make voting easier and more accessible for American citizens. He knows that he will lose.
Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. You have a business, right?
So what?
You have a business, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's say you had a food business. Okay? Mm-hmm. And this is now August. And let's say you found out or you knew that there were going to be 8 or 10 events taking place in September. Is it fair to say that you as a business owner are going to be buying more supplies to cover the demand that you know you're going to get in September because of these huge events? Yes or no?
Yes, and according to this
One second.
article,
Hold
according to
on.
this
No,
article,
one second.
they
One
were
second.
moving equipment
No,
to areas
one second.
where it was necessary.
No, one second.
No, you don't want to hear the truth.
Hold up. No, wait. No, wait.
You want the truth.
Derek, allow me to finish. So let's take New Jersey. If you normally are getting 500,000 votes by absentee in the entire state, that's what you normally are going to get. Now, the state is going to mail out 6.3 million. That's literally 11 times more. So don't you think if that's going to happen, that you're going to need all of those additional mailboxes? You're going to need those mail sorting machines because your volume is about to increase 11 times over. Yes or no?
What I think is, because you asked what I think, is this whole notion of the U.S. Postal Service is exactly what is doing exactly what it was inspired to do, is cause this whole conversation.
But who started
and dialogue
it? But who
amongst
started
Democrats
it?
and Republicans.
No, but who started it?
According to Marty Johnson, the U.S. Postal Agency spokesperson, the U.S. Postal Service, and this is an article today, is well prepared and has ample capacity to deliver America's election mail.
Who does that spokesman work for? DeJoy?
Marty Johnson.
Who does Marty Johnson work for?
NBC article.
Who does Marty Johnson work for?
The U.S. Postal Service.
Rob, who did, what was the guy named Baghdad who gave all the interviews for Saddam Hussein? Who the hell did he work for?
I just gave you two different people from this Postal Service.
You still are not seeing it. Rob, Rob, this is real simple. If you know your demand,
these people know they want there.
Excuse me. You do. Any person with a business knows. If your demand is about to skyrocket, you want more capacity to handle what you normally would get. You're going to get 10 times that.
Roland, you don't work at the post office. These people do.
And I'll make this very simple. You're right, they do. And right now, the President of the United States has said he doesn't believe in mail-in ballots except for himself and in Florida and places he thinks he might win. But he thinks it's a big fraud, so he doesn't want the post office to have that. He said this. Look, we don't have to guess. So look, he is doing this in order to rig the election. You know, Roland, you always know what Republicans are doing by what they say others are doing. It's being politicized. There's voter fraud. That's what they're doing. They're trying to commit voter fraud by voter suppression. They're trying to rig the election. They're trying to politicize a whole department that shouldn't be politicized. The Postal Service should work for everybody. It was written into the Constitution, and it ought to work as its function to work. But it's not working that way. They want to destroy this. And if this gets destroyed right now, it could get destroyed going forward. It will change the whole nature of democracy if someone can just do this and just totally rig an election. So we don't have to guess. Trump said this. Like we don't have to guess what his plans are. He's very transparent.
And see here's the other deal right here. Here's the other deal, Dr. Carter. I just got this text from somebody who said that when people who get mail-in ballots, they can drop them off at polling places. There's a black box at polling places. Well, here's the deal. It all depends, first of all, if they have those boxes there. That's first. Other deal, though, is this here. What is actually easier for the consumer? See, when people say you can drop off your envelope at a drop-off box, well, here's the deal. Where are those drop-off boxes going to be? What neighborhoods are they going to be in? Is that going to require transportation for somebody to go 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles for the drop-off box? The reality is this here. It's much easier for me to simply close the envelope, stick it in my mail. When they come pick it up, then it goes to the mail center. But to have, so it's amazing, Dr. Carter, also that Derek would sit here and try to say that the Postal Service spokesperson said we got more than ample capacity when the same Postal Service has sent letters to 46 states saying the opposite, saying we won't be able to meet your deadlines.
Well, I mean, look, doing all of this stuff is essentially putting a tax on voting, right? And we know any kind of taxes on voting are illegal, right? We said that this is something that every citizen of the certain age, as long as they've met all these requirements, they're allowed to do. So moving mailboxes, making it more difficult for people to access the ballot is really a tax. And so we have to think about all of these things. Like you said, Roland, the people that we care about in these cases are the people who are most underserved, because usually what happens in these suppression efforts, it's not going to matter probably for a person like me. I can figure out, I have a vehicle. I can get to a post office or get to a polling place. But if you're in a rural community or if you're in a part of the city that is not well served by public transportation, going a little bit farther, right? And I'm being facetious here, but like another 3 blocks, another 4 blocks, another 3 miles can be really insurmountable for some people. And so the I think most pernicious thing about voter suppression is it works on the margins. It's not the big to do, right? Like Derek is saying, this is not a big deal. It's not that big of an issue. But it's the small things that actually make a huge difference to the most endangered voters, right, in our political system. So this sabotage, because that's exactly what it is, it's going to matter for the people who are less able to combat this kind of handicaps that he's putting in their way. He's just throwing up roadblock after roadblock. I mean, it's kind of flippant to say that this doesn't matter because a couple people at the post office like DeJoy, right? Ask the Postal Workers Union what they think about this. They have a very different read on this. And if history is a teacher, Donald Trump should watch himself, because in 1970, Richard Nixon tried the same thing and the Postal Service strike, and it didn't turn out well. So I think we have to think about a lot of things here, not just, it's only going to be a small thing. Anything that happens that separates a person from their right to vote in the most accessible, easy way fashion possible is a problem.
Let me read this here, Derek, because you said, hold on, Derek. You said you read from the NBC News. This is today's New York Times. Quote, the Postal Service has warned states that it may not be able to meet their deadlines for delivering last-minute mail-in ballots. Another development in a growing controversy over the new Postmaster General's handling of vote-by-mail operations as President Trump continues to rail against the practice. They sent letters in July to Pennsylvania, Florida, and Michigan and others. This is Thomas J. Marshall, the General Counsel for the Postal Service, warned that, quote, certain deadlines for requesting and casting mail-in ballots are incongruous with the Postal Service's delivery standards. Now, here's the problem, Derek, with this, okay? This is what they say. Many states have long allowed voters to request a mail ballot close to the election. Only one, Rhode Island, meets the standard now being suggested by the Postal Service. But the Postal Service suggested that the large volume of voting by mail at a time of widespread delivery delays meant that states would be better off building more time into their systems. Derek, you said that this spokesman says they have ample resources to handle all of this. This letter contradicts literally what you said.
Well, pull up the NBC article. You want me to send it to you so you can pull that up and put it on the screen?
Derek, I'm reading. Derek, this is from the. But Derek, hold up. Derek, so wait, Derek, 1 second, Derek, are you suggesting that the General Counsel of the same Postal Service?
I'm suggesting to pull up the article that
One second. Are you suggesting that the General Counsel of the Postal Service doesn't know what he's talking about?
I'm suggesting you pull up the article that I just read from, because NBC obviously has conflicting stories.
No, actually, it's not. Actually, it's not. Hold up, Derek. Derek, I'll let you speak. It's not NBC with conflicting stories. It's no, Derek. It's not NBC with a conflicting story. It's
Roland, the quote
Derek.
came from people
It's
from the
Derek.
post office
It's
from NBC News.
Derek. Let me help you out. Let me talk slower.
let me help
No,
you
no, no,
out.
no, no,
Talk about
Derek.
from NBC
Derek,
News.
let me talk slower so maybe you'll get this.
Man,
Derek,
talk slow.
Derek, let me
slow.
talk slower.
Talk slow.
There's an NBC News article quoting
Let me send this
a
article to you.
spokesman for the Postal Service, right?
Let me send this to you.
There's an NBC News article quoting
send
a
this
spokesman for the Postal Service.
Right here.
Then there's a New York Times article quoting the General Counsel of the Postal Service. Derek, the problem here is not NBC and the New York Times. The problem is that the people with the conflicting viewpoints are the Postal Service execs who serve DeJoy. That is where the problem is. So they're feeding us lies, Dr. Carter. They're trying to tell us two different things. One says we're going to have
Let me
delays.
finish what I was
Wait,
gonna say.
hold up. One says we're going to have delays. The other says, hey, we're not going to have delays. Which one is
Let me
it?
finish what I was going to say.
We're
You
gonna
said you
have
let me
delays,
finish. You
'cause
said
I
you
can
let
tell
me
you
finish.
right now, I have not been getting my mail regularly, and neither have many of my other DC residents. So if this is happening
Okay,
now,
this
I have no
motherfucker. At the end of the day.
expectation that by November, the Postal Service will be able to handle the amount of ballots they're going to get as the weeks roll into November. So, I mean, I'm going to err on the side that they don't have the capacity, and that's on purpose because, again, the president has told us this. DeJoy has made sure he's done things to slow down the Postal Service. I mean, if you're willing to believe a man who's told 20,000 lies, right? As of last month, it was 20,000. I'm sure it's more now. In the last 4 years, then you'll believe anything.
All right, Derek, go ahead.
I was just going to add, man, you talk about this stuff that could or couldn't happen, with mail-in balance and stuff like that. Shorty, I got a piece of mail over on my desk, and it's addressed to my mom, Ann Holly. I get calls and mail for my mom, and she's been passed. She's dead 20 years now. I got another partner, conversely, who's been living up here in Maryland for 25 years and got mail sent to his mother's house. So to think that the post office can't make mistakes inadvertently, and I'm not saying that they're doing it on purpose, but it happens, bro. Because I'm dealing with it right now with my mom. And so to think that somebody couldn't get a ballot in a box and vote, I think that I just don't think that's right.
Derek,
to even believe that
Derek,
that's possible.
one second, Derek. Let me help you out with this.
You ain't gotta help me out with
No,
nothing,
actually, I have to help this grown ass Omega out because clearly the example that you just gave is utterly ludicrous. Here's why. Allow. No. I'm giving you facts. Let me explain to you process.
That's your opinion.
No, Derek. You just said I still get mail from my mom who's deceased. Are you getting ballots for your mother?
I didn't say ballot, Roland.
That's my point.
I didn't say
That's my point. Second of all, even allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Even if a ballot is sent to your home, there's still allow me to finish. There still is a process that even if that ballot was fraudulently returned, there's a process on the end that also will be able to verify this very thing. That, Rob, is what Donald Trump and these Republicans don't want to talk about. Because, see, you can't tell me the process that exists for a live person is the same process for somebody deceased. There's verification on the other end.
Yep. Well, Derek, you have a better chance of going out and being the MVP for the NBA than you do for committing voter fraud. It does not exist. This is some shit y'all make up. In order to...
Derek, let him finish. Now let you respond.
Listen, y'all make this up in order to suppress the vote. This is the strategy. Distract. Say, oh, well, look, we can get a fake ballot. People can commit fraud this way. They are trying. You always know the tell. It's what you're trying to do. It's what Republicans are trying to do. They commit a fraud. by saying others are committing fraud. Is what they're doing.
I got to do this here. I want to bring in Alicia Garza right now, Black Futures Lab, because, again, what we're dealing with here, I'm going to talk to her about a couple of things, but I do want to get her thought on this because, Alicia, Black people have had to jump through hoops. We've had to jump over hurdles. And this is simply the latest. You and others, myself, we've been warning all of our people. We know it's coming. We know what they're going to do. And they're going to try to cheat. We're already seeing this, and that's exactly what this is.
That's absolutely right. And at the end of the day, the hurdle, there are several hurdles in front of us. One is getting our folks to turn up and turn out, because we are, in fact, facing massive voter suppression, whether it be through disinformation or whether it be through the attacks on the Postal Service, or simply whether it be failed leadership at the head of this country that still believes that this pandemic is a hoax. We have lots of hurdles to overcome leading up to the election. But I think we should not also forget that, if we're able to vote this president out, he is not going to leave without a fight. And so there's an even bigger hurdle that we have to face if we are victorious at the ballot box in November. So there is a lot at stake here. And I do think it's important for us to call this what it is. These are directed, intentional, strategic attacks intended to keep the most active, the most progressive, the most visionary voters at home. That's just facts.
This is one of the things that y'all are doing. It's called something called Defeat by Tweet, a tool that asks folks to give anywhere from a penny to $1 each time Donald Trump tweets. And of course, he's averaging about 900 tweets a month. The money raised is sent to grassroots organizations in swing states. Let's talk about that. What's really, if money's going to go to those grassroots organizations to do what? And how much is going to be raised? I see right there, somebody said from Defeat by Tweet. Thank you, Mr. Trump. You just donated $3,537. Keep tweeting. # Defeat by Tweet.
That's right. So here's how this works, Roland. What we know is two things. Every time Donald Trump tweets, it has consequences. It has consequences for people like me. When Donald Trump tweets about Black Lives Matter and starts to attack the organization, it has consequences on Black activists, Black organizers, and other marginalized and disenfranchised groups. He is intentional about targeting people for whom he does not believe belong at the core of what powers this country. At the same time, I think there are so many people out here, Roland, who see Donald Trump's tweets and get frustrated. What can we do about this? Twitter is not banning Donald Trump or his lies from their platform. And so there must be some kind of way that we can fight back. And that's really what Defeat by Tweet is. Defeat by Tweet gives money to Black-led grassroots organizations who are doing electoral organizing in swing states every single time this president tweets. So we combat hate, sexism, racism, all of the isms that Donald Trump advances every single day through his tweets. We counter that with Black political power. And that's why I think people should know more about Defeat by Tweet.
And so what is the goal? What do you hope to, and how much money do you hope to raise, and how many people you hope is going to participate?
Well, let me say, Roland, in just 6 weeks, Defeat by Tweet raised $1 million, and the average contribution there was around $600. So what we're doing here is making sure that, a crew of 27 Black-led grassroots organizations, including organizations like mine, the Black to the Future Action Fund, including Color of Change, including Black Voters Matter, we are making sure that we are generating resources for Black-led organizations to mobilize and register and protect Black voters in swing states across this country leading up to the election. I think what we hope for is that we'll raise enough money that we can actually really power these groups and give them the leg up to be able to move the program that we need to be able to move from now all the way through November. And then, of course, Defeat by Tweet is not going to end in November. We know that the work it still has to continue, no matter who is in office November 3rd. So this effort is going to continue to advance. And what we need people to do is sign up. You can literally sign up for as little as a penny, or if you're feeling sprightly and generous, you can donate to, as much as you can. Because every single time that Donald Trump tweets, he puts Black power in danger. And what we're doing here is flipping the script and saying, keep tweeting, because every single time you do, we're donating resources to Black organizations that are building Black power. And that's important.
Well, and that's the point that I keep making to people, that they have to understand that they are going to try everything. Our job is to push back as hard as possible.
That's absolutely correct.
All right. Alicia Garza, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Happy Friday, Roland. It's always good to see you. Thanks
Indeed.
for having us.
All right. You take care. All right, folks, got to go to a commercial break. When we come back, yeah, no, Donald Trump is always lying. Well, he got asked about it. We'll show you next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, yesterday at the news conference Donald Trump gave, the White House correspondent for the Huffington Post, S.V. Daite, I believe that's how I pronounce his name, used his first time being called upon by Trump at a news conference, frankly, to ask the question that he's been waiting to ask for years, and that one, if I would ask Trump the exact same thing.
Please. So, Mr. President, after 3.5 years, do you regret at all the lying you've done to the American people?
All the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done. Tens of thousands.
Go ahead, please. Please. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about the payroll tax. Cut.
Rob, the person who's really weak is Dr. Carter, I'll go to you. The person who's really weak is the person who asked the question afterwards about the payroll tax. No, make him answer that question.
Absolutely. And I think everybody was waiting for him to have a response to it, because usually he's snippy when people ask him tough questions or calls them nasty or says they're awful at their jobs. But he didn't do that this time. I think he was caught flat-footed because somebody asked him the straight up bold question, which is, what about your lies? And again, we know he lies so much because fact checkers are out here. And again, last month, the Washington Post told us he told 20,000 lies over the last 4 years. So it is what he does on a daily basis. And I assume that every time Donald Trump is talking, for the most part, he's lying, unless he's telling on himself.
Fair question, Derek.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised at the response. And so,
well, wait,
I
hold on, Derek.
I think you should do a better job of answering the question, bro.
Derek, why are you surprised at the response? He was asked about lying. Hell, he couldn't lie.
I think you should have done a better job of trying to answer that question.
He couldn't.
A little better, but look, what he said, what was his response? What did he say? Who? He said who? So I thought it was classic Donald Trump, actually.
Yeah, but he couldn't have. What was he going to say? Lie and say, I don't tell lies. That was a great question there, Rob. And the reporter who's done that, he's added about 125,000 new followers in the last 24 hours.
He's asking what everybody knows to be true. The man lies when he breathes. He just doesn't. I don't think he doesn't know how not to lie. I think it's an effort for him to tell the truth. So, he just he just had to move on from that question. There's nothing else you can say. I mean, he lies all the time. We know that. It's just who he is.
But that's why the other reporters.
He's honest, right, Derek?
That's why the other reporters got to follow up saying, no, let's pick up on that. Why your ass keep lying? Why you like?
What happened?
I mean, Derek, this ain't no different when your daddy look at you going. This is no different.
It is, my dad asked me something like that. I couldn't avoid the question.
Right, but this is no different than your daddy saying, you know your ass lying. You know you lying, and you know I know your ass lying. So you think I'm about to buy that bullshit? See, that's real. Donald Trump is an absolute liar. He lies about lies. And here's the deal. Kira Phillips asked him this question here. He lied in his answer. Roland.
Mr. President, thank you so much. 2 questions, if you don't mind, Mr. President. First of all, Kamala Harris, you've been very blunt about how you feel about her mean, nasty, mad woman. Biden now saying...
No, I haven't been blunt. I said she treated Joe Biden worse than anybody else. I watched those debates. They were very boring, but they were debates nevertheless. And I watched, pretty good parts of them. And she treated Biden worse than anybody else by far. There was nobody, including Pocahontas, nobody treated Biden so badly as Kamala.
Well, let me ask you this then. Do you have an issue with a strong woman of color being in this presidential race? Do you
None whatsoever.
You don't see her as a threat?
As you know, none whatsoever. No, not at all.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And we know he lying, Dr. Carter. Donald Trump cannot handle black women challenging him.
Well, he doesn't like women, period, but he definitely has a special dislike for black women. We've seen how he's treated Yamiche Alcindor repeatedly, April Ryan. I mean, he cannot stand it. And we know Kamala Harris does not suffer fools. So if they have a conversation, she will be holding his feet to the fire. He better be lucky she's VP and not president, because he doesn't want to debate her. I mean, the truth is all he has is insults. For people that he cannot control, for people who don't agree with him, for people who dare hold him to any kind of standard or to account. That's all he has, that and his lies. So Donald Trump is, I'm sure, not happy with Kamala Harris. I mean, even the way he says her name and referring to Elizabeth Warren as Pocahontas. I mean, this man is so beneath the threshold, right? The bar is officially underground at this point.
I mean that's just the reality there, Rob. He look, whether it's April Ryan, Yamiche Alcindor, Abby Phillips, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. I mean, his vitriol for black women. I mean, he literally said, "I watch you. You ask stupid questions. You know what you're talking about." I mean, he is nasty and vicious. Especially to women, but definitely to black women.
Oh, absolutely, because black women will call him on his bullshit, and they're not scared of him. So you can tell, by the way, that he was intimidated by Kamala's pick by how Republicans are responding. Like, they say she's phony, then they say she's too tough, then they say she's too conservative. She has a really pro-cop rating. Then they say she's an ultra-liberal. Like, what is she? Like, You're saying she's liberal, she's conservative, she's pro-cop, anti-cop? Like, they knew you can tell by their response that they were shook. They didn't think that Biden was going to make this pick, and it took them by surprise. And how they're attacking shows that they're not ready for the response. So I was happy to see him stunned and a little bit shook. It was fun to watch.
Here's April.
It always is.
Here's April Ryan on CNN talking about how Donald Trump really can't. He just doesn't like strong black women, Derek.
April, the president said he didn't really see much of it. And so when a reporter basically summed up for him what Kamala Harris had said about the case that she laid out for his lack of leadership, he didn't even really respond to that. Instead, he just pulled that nasty word out of the bag, which he uses with women on a regular basis, specifically any women who he feels do not respect him in the way that he believes he deserves. It's interesting that that's all he's coming with, right? He's just going back to the nasty women and, oh, by the way, I need a white suburban housewife, which is also not really adding up. And that's where we're at.
Personal attacks and race are what this president always falls back on. At the end of the day, this president is limited. They are doing their opposition research on Senator Harris right now, now the running mate to Joe Biden on this Democratic ticket. But once again, as you said, Erica, this president likes to go to the issue of nasty. He called me nasty. Strong black women. Let's go there. Let's not just say strong women, strong black women. Senator Kamala Harris is now in that group. He's going to make more attacks. But when he has nothing to say and when he can't find anything in his limited approach to speak, what he will do is fall back on racism and sexism. So that's what we know. So we can expect that throughout the rest of this campaign, these next 80 plus days until the election.
Derek, agree, disagree?
I think Kamala was a good pick for a couple reasons. One, I mean, everything you do right now, you got to walk around on eggshells because you don't want to be perceived as being sexist or racist or anything, or a xenophobe or anything. So that's the first thing. And plus, yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing is just, as far as with the black women and stuff like that, why is it, if they don't like him, just like somebody don't like me, I ain't gotta like you either. So why if they don't like him,
because
you don't like them?
Derek, first of all, that's one, it's not true. There's a difference between, if they're doing their jobs, here's the deal. There's a difference between somebody saying, I don't like you, and I'm going to be nasty to you. There are people who I've worked with, Derek, who I didn't like, but I wasn't nasty to them. There are people who I worked with.
You don't think they nasty to him? You don't think they nasty to him?
Asking him questions is being nasty to him?
Yeah, like
okay, y'all. It's very one-sided on the show, but it's okay. Look, y'all.
Wait, hold on, Derek, hold on. Dr. Carter,
there are millions of Americans who don't agree with everything that's on this show. And that's what y'all got to understand. That's why everybody's scrambling so much for this election, because you're scared of going to lose.
No, actually,
no. Don't agree with what you say.
No, Derek. Derek, we're fully aware. Derek, we're fully aware that people disagree. But it is undeniable. No, actually, it's a fact-based show. Dr. Carter is undeniable. It is undeniable that this man he chooses to be nasty with women. He chooses to trash women. And you're right, even when they ask him basic questions, his nastiness comes out because he doesn't like to be challenged by women.
Yes, look, all Yamisha Sundar and Ethel Ryan did was do their jobs covering the White House as part of the press corps. It's not required that anybody in that room like anybody. But I'm asking you a question. I'm doing my job. I'm being a professional, which is what we would hope Donald Trump would be. But he's proven himself time and time again ill-equipped to do so. And all he has is, that's stupid, you're dumb, you're not good at your job. And I think we have to always be cautious about that, particularly with Black women, because that's usually the first thing that people go to when they want to insult you, is they go after your qualifications. They go after your abilities. They say things like, oh, you were affirmative action pick and you're no good, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're less than. And while he may not have said all of that, those are the implications of those things. So just because they don't like him allegedly, or he doesn't like them, doesn't mean he gets to stand up there in his role as president and feel like he's above reproach, that no one can say anything or ask him anything. That's their job. And if he's not prepared for that, then he needs to step aside.
And I would just to make a final point on this, just like James Baldwin said, we can have disagreements on politics, we can have disagreements on things and still be friends, unless, of course, the disagreement is based on my humanity. And for Trump, it's based on our humanity. He doesn't respect women. He does not like Black people. He is racist. That is the problem. This is not opinion-based. We're not having differences in policy talking about cutting taxes or whether you believe in big government, small government. We're talking about our humanity. And that's the problem I have with Donald Trump. He doesn't believe me as a human to be equal. That's why he has to go. That's why he needs to go, period. End of sentence.
One second, hold on. And I want to read this, Derek.
Rob, I like you, man.
One second. I want to read.
I'm talking about Donald Trump.
No. 1 second. I want to read this here because this is not new. This took place in 1954. This is from the Washington Post. Here we go to my iPad. On the morning of July 7th, 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower entered into the Indian Treaty Room in the Executive Office Building, where 165 members of the overwhelmingly white and male press corps were gathered. After briefly congratulating the reporters on the media's efforts to reduce fireworks casualties during the recent 4th of July celebration, the president began to take questions. A UPI reporter asked, would Eisenhower support the admission of Red China to the United Nations? A New York Times correspondent wanted to know, did the pending farm bill meet with the administration's approval? One reporter after another plied the president with predictable questions on politics, policy, and foreign affairs. But Ethel L. Payne had a more pressing issue to address. As the Washington correspondent for the Chicago Defender, the nation's leading black newspaper, she had carefully formulated a question with the assistance of Clarence Mitchell, the chief lobbyist of the NAACP, that reflected the growing hopes of African Americans in the months after the Brown v. Board Supreme Court decision to desegregate schools. Mr. President, she began in her deep voice when Eisenhower called on her. We were very happy last week when the Deputy Attorney General sent a communication to the House Interstate and Foreign Commerce Committee saying that there was a legal basis for passing a law to ban segregation in interstate travel. I would like to know if we could assume that we have administration support in getting action on this. This wasn't the first time she had gotten a crack at the president. Eisenhower began calling on her earlier that spring, a year into her service as a Washington correspondent. Each time, Payne had focused on race, from the exclusion of the Howard University course at a Republican event to Vice President Richard Nixon's comment that every act of racial discrimination or prejudice in the United States hurts America as much as espionage agent who turns over a weapon to a foreign enemy. Now, this day, this is what they say. So far, the president had dispatched her queries with platitudes. Her question on this day hit a nerve. Eisenhower drew himself up into his military posture. You say that you have to have administrative support. He barked. The administration is trying to do what it thinks and believes to be decent and just in the country, and is not in the effort to support any particular or special group of any kind. There were people who were not particularly happy. He was not happy that she asked that question. Prior to her, guess what? This is what it says. Eisenhower had learned his lesson. He stopped calling on Payne. In the coming months, White House Press Secretary James Haggerty explored ways to revoke her accreditation. This is the reality, Derek. Black people in the White House Press Corps have long challenged presidents. And these white men have not liked, especially when these black women had the audacity to do their job.
Oh man, I mean, that was a great article. I'm glad you shared it. But I go back to what I stand by what I said, man. You know, if they don't like him, he don't like them. You can feel the tension in the room from when these questions are asked. And sometimes, and it's frustrating because like they'll ask the question, then they'll ask it again. Then they'll ask again and ask it again. So I can understand. I'll be frustrated as hell too sometimes when these people ask me those questions.
Well, last I checked, Dr. Carter, if you call a news conference, you're going to get questions asked at a news conference. That comes with the job. The reality is that he doesn't like being challenged with facts.
And I was going to say, I mean, this is the job. If you ask a question and the person doesn't answer the question, you follow up and you ask it again until you get an answer. And I think when you think about how he's interacted, I mean, some of these questions weren't even anything about policy per se, but things he'd actually said, like about the ventilators, right? That was one of their biggest dust-ups he had with Yamiche Alcindor. She asked him about ventilators, and he was like, you're not being positive. And these are get you questions. It's like, no, these are questions that are actually vitally important to ask the president, who, by all accounts, is supposed to be the leader of this country and the architect of this pandemic response. And she asked him about the ventilators that he swore were going to be provided, and he didn't like the question. And then he tells her she's not being positive enough. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Dr. Niameh Carter, now you have to go. We surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much. I'm going to do this
you,
here. Derek, I want you
Have
to...
a good weekend.
Thank you very much. Derek, I want you to answer this. So you talk about, you know, how they don't like him and how the questions are. Here's a basic question. Yamiche Alcindor asked Donald Trump at the White House. I want you and Rob, and we're going to bring on Amisha Cross in a second, and the audience can hear it as well. Just simply show me how this is a nasty question.
Hi, Mr. President. Yamiche Alcindor with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also
I don't
saying
know why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
That's such a racist
There are
question.
some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists
Oh, I
because
don't
of your
believe
rhetoric.
that. I don't
What do
believe
you make
that.
of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President, I want to ask.
You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems.
And
Excuse me, but to say that, what you said is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
And Mr.
Okay, please,
President,
go ahead.
Mr.
Go
President,
ahead.
people have you
Go
talked
ahead.
about you talked about middle class tax cuts on the campaign trail. How will you get Democrats to support that policy? Or
You have to ask them.
Well,
Hey,
what's your plan for
excuse
working
me.
with
You know
Democrats
what
on
my
a middle
plan
class
is?
tax plan?
You know what my plan is? I'll ask them. And if they say yes, I'm all for it. And if they say no, there's nothing you can do because you need their votes. Go ahead.
Derek, was that a nasty question? Was she nasty with him?
Yeah, hell yeah. In my opinion, it was. I answered it the same way.
She was nasty to him in that question?
I answered that question the same way. What is this white nationalist thing? She was trying to imply that he was racist. With that question, she was trying to imply, Mr. President, you're racist. And he was defending himself. That's what I took from it.
Okay, here's the deal.
Wow.
We're going to bring in Amisha Cross here again because I want to play this one because again, this is what happens when you ask very basic questions to this guy, and for some reason he is just unwilling to answer those questions. Let me see if I can play this video here. So let's see if is this nasty? I mean,
our biggest fear is not the other teams.
Hold on one second. We're going to pull up. Let this. I think we're going to have it in a second. So when the video comes up, Henry, you should be able to play it. And again, these are basic, fundamental questions that journalists ask politicians. But when he gets questioned by black women, ooh, that just really sets him off. Here's Yamiche Alcindor, again, asking a question. I think it's ready.
My first question is, you said that you don't take responsibility, but you did disband the White House Pandemic Office, and the officials that were working in that office left this administration abruptly. So what responsibility do you take to that? And the officials that worked in that office said that the White House lost valuable time because that office wasn't disbanded. What do you make of that?
Well, I just think it's a nasty question because what we've done is, and Tony has said numerous times that we've saved thousands of lives because of the quick closing. And when you say me, I didn't do it. We have a group of people. I could ask perhaps my administration, but I could perhaps ask Tony about that because I don't know anything about it. I mean, you say we did that. I don't know anything about it.
You don't know
We're
about
spending,
about
I
the
don't know.
reorganization that happened at the National Security
It's the administration.
Council.
Perhaps they do that. You know, people let people go. You used to be with a different newspaper than you are now. You know, things like that happen.
But this was
Please go ahead. We're doing a great job. Let me tell you, these professionals behind me and these great, incredible doctors and business people, the best in the world, and I can say that, whether it's retailers or labs or anything you want to say, these are the best in the world. We're doing a great job.
The great Yamiche Alcindor from PBS NewsHour.
So, was that a nasty question, Derek?
That was not a nasty question. No, I can't say that was a nasty question.
Oh, okay. We got some reasonable. That wasn't nasty.
Amish Cross, you're on. This is, again, Amish, the reality is that this guy, his vitriol when black women are challenging him is different than anybody else.
And you hit the nail on the head, Roland. There is a fierce attitude and a composure that changes precipitously when Donald Trump is questioned by African-American females. There is a very strong hate, angst, and a legit bothersome spirit that he gets when a successful Black woman is ready to approach him with a question that isn't even aggressive. She's not asking him anything that reporters across the country should not be asking him. Yamiche has done her research. The Black reporters who have made it to this level to even be able to question the president of the United States, no matter who it is, have worked their tail off to be able to get one of those coveted positions. To ask questions that the American public needs to hear does not make you a nasty woman or a nasty person. This is a common trope that President Trump uses because he, quite frankly, does not respect Black women, and he does not respect the professionalism that it takes to be a journalist. But moreover, President Trump is threatened majorly by successful women of color, specifically Black women, who he devalues time and time again.
Here's one more. Here's one more. Watch this.
What about Christine
One
Walker
second.
from NBC?
One second. Watch this. Go.
Let me just tell you something. I know you always have a question. You mean my White House aides lied? What about his aides? What about Mueller's aides? He didn't say that at all. You're untruthful when you ask. You are untruthful when you ask that question. When you ask that question, you're untruthful. And you know who else is untruthful? You know who else is untruthful? His aides. And Weissman was untruthful. And Weissman got caught just like he did with Arthur Anderson, where he lost in the Supreme Court 9-0. His aides were very untruthful. And they put Mueller, not at all. They put Mueller in a very bad position. His aides put him in a very bad position. And if you were ever truthful, you'd be able to write the truth.
Was she being nasty?
Well, I'll just say this, Roland. A hit dog will holler. You know what's going on with Trump based upon what he says. So when he says somebody is nasty, he's the one being nasty. When he calls someone a racist, it's because he's being racist. I find it so fascinating when people, when racists do racist things and say racist things, they're not offended by the racist behavior. They're offended when someone calls them out on the behavior and calls them racist. I want them to be more offended with racism than they are with being called a racist. And so hit dog or holler. He's just that's just who he is.
And on that particular point, I just want to again just here's one that I want to play for you. That again, just so people understand what you're dealing with when you talk about an extremely childish individual who is in the White House, how he responds, how he is he cannot handle being challenged or being questioned, which is also why the man has no business ever being in the office again. Let's see what this one here is.
Whitaker, I don't know Matt Whitaker. Matt Whitaker worked for Jeff Sessions, and he was always extremely highly thought of, and he still is. But I didn't know Matt Whitaker.
Do you expect Matt Whitaker to be involved in the Russia probe? Do you want him to?
It's up to him.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions. I think Jim Acosta is a very unprofessional.
She just asked a very basic question. He attacks her. What a stupid question. I watch you ask a lot of stupid questions. That's what he said to Abby Phillips, black White House correspondent for CNN.
It's a common retort, Roland. It's a common retort for a president who refuses to answer questions. He assumes.
No. It's a common retort for this one. I can't recall hearing Obama, Bush, Clinton, H.W. Bush, Reagan, Carter, Ford. I don't recall them saying, "What a stupid question." And I watch you and you ask stupid questions.
Is authoritarianism. This president does not believe he has to answer to, or he has to respect, or he has to even be questioned by the press unless the press is friendly towards him, and it's a press that he has already positioned the questions to. So he loves his One America News. He loves his Fox News most of the time, but he knows that when he is encountering people like Yamiche, when he is encountering any African-American journalist, to be honest, things start to get a little bit more tricky for him, and he's not prepared for that. And he already disrespects Black women and has never respected them. So this just gives him another opportunity to dig in his heels for questions he doesn't want to answer anyway.
Derek?
I'm just sitting here and y'all talk about you badmouth this dude, but you give Mr. Biden a white pass.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Can you show me an example where? No. Hold up. Can you show me an example where Joe Biden has talked dismissively and that nasty to black correspondents?
No, I can give you an example where Joe Biden used the nigga. You can go pull that up. And I guarantee y'all been looking for a place where Trump has said that word. But Joe Biden said it.
I haven't. So where did Joe Biden say that word?
Yeah,
at a hearing. Go pull it up.
No. Hold up, Derek.
At a hearing.
Wait. Hold up, Derek. Hold up, Derek. Derek, where did he say that? No. Where did he say it, Derek?
At a hearing. At a congressional hearing.
And what was the context, Derek?
At a hearing, he was talking about a criminal, and he used the word. I don't give a damn.
No. Tell me. No. You said Joe Biden said, nigga. Show me what the context was.
I know what it said. You pull it up. You got your producers. They pull it up. I already know what it said. I saw it.
Okay. So for everybody who's out there watching, let me show you why. When folks like Derek say stuff like that, they sound ignorant because they don't want to back it up with facts. Go to my iPad. Here's the deal. Claim a video from a 1985 hearing exposes Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden for using the N-word, stating, "We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots." Wait, listen. Associated Press, listen, Derek. Associated Press's assessment. False. Biden was not making the statement himself. Listen. No, stop talking and listen. Listen. Biden was not making the statement himself. He was reading a racist statement made by hold up. First of all, Derek, you're not going to overtalk me while I'm explaining to the audience what's going on. Y'all can turn this mic down so I can read to the audience. Listen.
He left us again.
See, this is what happens when folks like Derek don't want to deal with facts. So for all y'all listen, I want y'all to listen. Derek just said, Joe Biden said nigger in a hearing. Here are the facts. Quote, Biden was not making the statement himself. He was reading a racist statement made by a state legislator during a redistricting process in Louisiana that was overseen by a deputy attorney general nominee. Biden was questioning the nominee under oath about the comments during a U.S. Senate hearing. That, Rob, is far different than you listen to Derek say, oh, he said nigger. He was reading a racist statement by a Louisiana state legislator.
I mean, I don't even know where to start, man. It is typical of the party to try to distract, to get you going down, to get you distracted, because the strategy of the Republican Party right now, you have a president that is racist, and what they're trying to say is Joe Biden's racist too. Look at that. Like, no, they are not equivalent. Don't even put those. Put those two together.
Rob, I got something for you. And again, see, this is why Derek logged off. Okay, here's the deal, and this is what happens when, like I told Derek, we don't play the lie game on this show. We deal in facts. This, folks, is the actual video from C-SPAN. Go.
Unerring precision slices through the city's traditional subunit, the ward, in a racially selective manner, leaving intact predominantly white wards while carving up those densely populated by blacks. As of the governor, the court concludes, quote, the governor's opposition to the Nunes plan was predicated in significant part on his delineation of a majority black district centered in Orleans Parish. In a confidential portions of your staff memo, they brought to your attention the allegation that important legislators in defeating the Nunes plan in the basement said, quote, we already have a nigger mayor and we don't need any more nigger big shots. And the court cited evidence of discriminatory intent on the part of Other legislators, including the representative who testified at the court hearing, that there were legislators, quote, who don't feel they wanted to have a district that would be able to elect a black representative.
That's what happens, Amisha, when you present facts. Derek he thought he was going to try on this show. And I keep telling y'all can't play that game with me. I'm too quick for y'all. Amisha, he thought, oh, Joe Biden said nigger, nigger, nigger in a hearing. He was literally reading from a statement made by a Louisiana state legislator.
The Republican Party is filled with a whole lot of wannabe truthers who make statements all the time that are incorrect, and they typically don't get fact-checked in real time. So I'm thankful that you did that. But it's also very clear what Republicans are trying to do, Derek included. They're trying to basically peg one racist for another racist and break it down to, well, Americans only have one decision, and it's to choose racist Trump or racist Biden. Quite frankly, it is an essential lie, but it's one that the Republican Party will not stop because they're trying to siphon off black votes by any means necessary.
And let me be real clear to the audience, okay? I loathe asking my people to turn someone's microphone off. I don't immediately jump to that. But if I say 6 and 8 and 10 times, let me finish, and a guest keeps trying to overtalk me, one, they're trying to overtalk me for a reason, because they don't want the truth to be told. And so, only a handful of times in my entire career have I ever said cut somebody's microphone. And I've only said cut somebody's microphone when they refuse to stop talking over me and they get so outlandish and loud, I have no other choice but to cut their microphone so I'm able to make the point or allow a guest to make the point. And so that's the real deal there. So these are facts. This is how we operate. And see, this is what I keep trying to tell y'all. When these conservatives and these Republicans come on these shows and they try that game, most show hosts don't have their iPad connected to an HDMI connector. So when somebody throws it out, their staff is scrambling in the back trying to find it. I don't need that. Because, see, I'm always ready when you throw a lie out. And so it's childish to turn your Skype off and get all upset. And it's also childish when you won't let somebody make the point. So if you try to come on here with the lie, I'm going to bust you. Y'all, Trump had some words to say to Senator Kamala Harris today when she and Joe Biden signed their documents, which certified that they actually can legally run for president. This is what she had to say, just shaking the haters off.
It makes you sound a lot more in Delaware.
Senator, what do you make of President Trump and Republicans' attacks on you since you became the running mate for Mr. Biden?
I'm signing this because I am in this race to win, and with that guy right there, and we're going to get it done.
Have you and the Vice President been tested for coronavirus?
Come on, guys.
Senator?
That's all that's called. All right, Fleck, that's all it is. So I think we're going to see a whole lot more of that, Amisha. They are trying desperately to get under her skin. She ready for them. She ready for Pence. She ready for Trump.
Absolutely. And picking Kamala Harris, Joe Biden probably made the best decision he's made along the campaign trail thus far. She's someone who cannot be easily pegged. She's someone who the Republican Party and the Trump administration is finding a really hard time trying to put into a corner. She's someone who they are finding a hard time trying to even run attack ads against. So they have fallen on the sword that they always do, sexism, racism, because all the other attacks just aren't really landing. And these are a desperate plea to just try to get something that sticks.
Yep. Well, again, I get a kick out of these people. And see, Rob, what they expect us just to accept the silliness. Yo, I stay ready. I wake up ready.
Well, look, I just tell everybody, don't fall for the silliness, because I've seen some folks on social media with some craziness about is Kamala black? Bringing that up. We're trying to bring birtherism up. Like, Kamala's black. Jamaicans are black. By the way, I have Jamaican descent, so I guess I'm not black no more either. Like, I don't know whatever it is, they're trying to get us into silly season because they have nothing. I think it was actually, ironically, it was harder for Kamala in the primary because the primary was more progressive, very, very far to the left. I think she's actually a better general election candidate. So it's because they're trying to attack her in all these different ways. She's too hard on crime. She's too soft on crime. She's a liberal. She's a conservative, and none of that's going to stick. So they're trying everything possible. They're hoping, as Amisha said, that some black people, particularly, they hope black men are going to fall for that. We're not going to. Because I know everywhere I go, I've seen when I've seen the one or two brothers put something up, people have checked them quickly, and some of them started to bring that down because we're not going to take it. Look, we're not going to fall for this. We're not going to fall for the trap. We're not going to go and repeat what we did in 2016, because it can be permanently changing America, and we can't afford that.
Folks, going to a quick break. When we come back, wait till you see these latest anti-Donald Trump ads. Y'all, we keep telling y'all, we going to hit this for the next 80 days. It's 80 days until Election Day, and we are not going to hold back whatsoever. I'll show you those next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, y'all. As a new batch of ads, roll them.
The reviews are in.
You have to go by where. Look.
Here's what Trump's own people are saying about him. He's a moron. Rex Tillerson, Trump's Secretary of State.
We're lower than the world.
Lower than the world. He tries to divide us. James Mattis, Trump's Secretary of Defense.
You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other. Very fine people on both sides.
He's an idiot. John Kelly, Trump's Chief of Staff.
They weren't laughing at me.
A professional liar. Gary Cohn, Trump's economic advisor.
There will be no lies.
He thinks he's God. Barbara Rass, SVP of Trump Organization.
I am the chosen one.
Like an 11-year-old child, Steve Bannon, Trump's advisor.
I don't take responsibility.
I think we need to look harder at who we elect.
I don't think he's fit for office.
I have the most loyal people.
Can America survive 4 more years?
We are better than this moment we're in.
This is their new hoax. 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero. A lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
The hope is that by July, the country's really rocking again.
Slow the testing down, please. And because we do more tests, we have more cases. It is what it is. A pandemic, which is disappearing. It's going to disappear.
This is Trump's new Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy. A longtime Republican donor, DeJoy has given over $400,000 to Republicans just this year. Coincidentally, DeJoy and his wife have between $30 and $75 million in assets of direct competitors to the United States Postal Service. That's right, they own the competition. The man Trump put in charge of our post office has the most to gain from its destruction. So why would Trump choose someone like DeJoy to run the post office just 3 months before the election to cheat millions of Americans out of their right to vote by mail? Trump can't win if Americans vote. Trump didn't choose DeJoy to run our post office. He chose DeJoy to destroy it.
You won't know the election result for weeks, months, maybe years after. Maybe you'll never know the election result. It'll be fixed, it'll be rigged.
I'm telling you, Rob, look, the pounding is going to continue. It must. I keep saying this. You have to leave no doubt. You cannot let up. You can't put one foot on Trump's neck. You got to put both feet on his neck and the Republicans who allow this evil to continue.
Yeah, I mean, we have to go harder than we ever have, because look, we're dealing with the president that, and a party, frankly, that doesn't care. They're trying to sabotage the whole postal service. They will work night and day. They will cheat. They will do it openly. And it can't be, I don't even think it can be close. This is why people have to come out, because if it's close, that allows room to cheat, and they're going to find a way to cheat and actually rig the election. Again, we'll say it over and over again. You know what Trump, he signals his move. He tells you. When he says, it's going to be rigged, it's going to take forever, that's what he's going to do. I'm actually more concerned about what happens when he does lose and he doesn't leave. Then we got to figure out what we do with that next, because I think that's the most likely scenario, and then we're going to really be tested.
Amisha.
This week, President Trump did what many Democrats and those who have been paying any attention have known for weeks now. Meaning that he's basically said literally why he is dismantling the post office. And this is for his own campaign victories. He does not believe in mail-in voting, not because he doesn't believe in the system or because it's wrought with fraud. Heck, he mail-in votes, and so does 70% of his administration. He does not want diverse audiences to mail-in vote. He does not want Black people to vote, Latino people to vote, and anybody who might vote Democrat. He wants to silence those individuals. He recognizes that he can only do so much disruption at the polls, but he also recognizes that COVID-19 isn't going anywhere, whether he says that publicly or not. So he's counting on those poll workers 65 and over not coming in. He's counting on destroying the mail-in voting as well by shutting down and taking money away from a post office that was already suffering dramatically. He is counting on shattering this, even though taking money from the post office doesn't only affect mail-in voting. It affects people's prescription drugs. It affects a large majority of Social Security income checks. It affects so many things when we think about the mail in general, and he just quite frankly doesn't care. Our biggest fear and our biggest thing that we should be afraid of this election cycle and be working against isn't necessarily foreign intervention. We got all the intervention we need coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and the Oval Office.
Well, keep in mind, when they are sworn in, they are sworn to protect the country against enemies, foreign and domestic.
I'll tell you, but he will throw his own, as Amisha, he will throw his own mama in front of a bus if he thinks it will help him get more power. He does not care about anybody or anything at any moment. And these people that he's convinced that he cares about you, he doesn't. He only cares about himself. I don't know. I would hope that the COVID-19 would show you that, but there's some people who are so tied to this narrative, so tied to the lies that they would destroy themselves. They would destroy America to believe it. We need Black people, Black women to save us again, to save these people from themselves. Because if we left it up to some people, they might have us all destroyed, because Trump does not care about anything at all except keeping power. That's it.
And folks, we keep making this point for you that you've got to understand. You can't sit this one out. I don't care who you are. You cannot sit this one out. And we also are making this point why it's important, because it's vital that we have independent voices that are speaking to our issues. I did a panel today for Netroots Nation. They had their virtual conference, and we talked about that. We talked about this show. We talked about why you have to have these different voices. And so there's so many out there. There are almost 2,000 of y'all watching on Facebook Live right now. There's 6,000 watching on YouTube, and y'all can support our show right there on YouTube as well. And so if you want to support what we do, join our Bring the Funk fan club. We're close to 11,000 people. Our goal by the end of the year, by December 31st, 2020, is to have 20,000 paying members of our Bring the Funk fan club. We're asking if you gave $50, that's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, for us to be able to do what we do. We're going to be hitting this election hard. We're going to be having not only candidates on, but we're going to be having pastors on, grassroots activists, young brothers, young sisters, talking about this election, trying to get you focused. Of course, you can go to Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered, New Vision Media. You can mail your money order to New Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street Northwest, Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. And I said I was going to give a personal shout out to the people who give $50 or more. And so Aldo Bamberg, Aja, Anthony Smith, Arthur Smith, Barry Graham, Bernadette, Brianne Swans, Byron Robinson, Katrina Davis, Dana Moulton Cox, Darius Owens, Deborah Head, Dewana Cobbs, Danelle Tillery II, Elson Benedict, James Brown, Janice Bale, J.B. Mercer, Jerome Milton, Drusilla Bruton, Jeanette Cochran, Awana Hostin, Karen Johnson, Kathy Purdue, Keith Vinson, LaDonna Gilbert, Love, Peace, and Joy, Lydia Ellis, Michelle McCann, Mr. Michael Robinson, Matuyu Arabakan, Nocente Uhutu, Otis Best, Peggy, Philemon Johnson, Rhonda Harris, Robert Christian, Rodney, Salathiel Caesar, Samuel Clifton, Sheila Thomas, Sherry Edmonds Flett, Stephanie Edmondson, T.A. Ball, Terrence Whitley, Tony Parker, Tyrone Taylor, Vera Kirkendall, Veronica Clayton, Viola Lee, Yvonne Wallace. So I want to thank all those people. Y'all, we're going to continue. First of all, the show's not over. And so I just want to I want to get that in now. So many of you are watching there again on YouTube and Facebook. And I just want you to understand that what we are building here is something significant. You see the Young Turks. I just want y'all to understand, you got CNN, you got these other different networks. We are building something here that's going to go beyond just this show. I can't tell you just yet, but I just want y'all to know. I already have the name. The company's already been created. We already filed the trademark. We're working through these things right now. But this is not just going to be Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're building something in a huge way, and your dollars are going to make that possible. Last thing I want to do with our panel here with Rob and Amisha, the Attorney General of Kentucky finally visited the family of Breonna Taylor 150 days after she was shot and killed. Amisha, David Cameron decided to finally show the hell up. He's Republican. He's a black Republican. There have been protests on his lawn of his home there in Kentucky by Until Freedom and other groups as well. Bottom line is this here. We've gotten what we've gotten because of pressure. And this is a perfect example. It doesn't matter that he's black. Pressure must be put upon him as well. And they're going to be having something called BreonnaCon next week. I'll have more details from Tamika Mallory and others. They are continuing to keep the energy focused on Breonna Taylor's case.
And I think that that's absolutely necessary. I cheered. I jumped up and down personally when I saw that there was finally some movement happening. But my heart goes out to Breonna Taylor's family specifically, because they have been fighting this day in and day out. Credit to the celebrities, the influencers, everybody on Twitter and social media who's been shouting this out for weeks now. But what this really comes down to is understanding that, like you mentioned, Roland, it doesn't matter whether somebody's black, white, or purple. When that person in an elected office chooses to align themselves with President Trump, with Mitch McConnell, with a Republican Party that does not care about police brutality and does not care about black lives, then we have a problem. We see a lot of the slow movement basically because of the fact that those in leadership have no real, they have no real impetus to move any faster because they didn't really view this as a serious issue. And it's frustrating because when you see somebody that looks like you in many cases expect them to react in a different type of way. The pressure from all of the audiences, be it on social media, on television, anywhere and everywhere, had not really moved him to make a decision. And it's frustrating to me that Breonna Taylor, a young woman, and a young African-American woman who was a first responder during the COVID-19 crisis, who had been awarded many times by the mayor's office, by the state, for her entire life of tireless work devoted to this. As a young person, it is really frustrating to see that she can die in such a heinous way and for leadership to not step up and make a move faster. It really goes to show that black lives really do not matter.
Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I really think Amisha said it all, and it's frustrating to think where we are here 150 days later, and that there's been a lot of pressure. Influencers, Oprah, Tamika Mallory, there's been a lot of pressure. And had that pressure not come, let me tell you, like, it still needs to keep happening because we still know those officers have not been prosecuted. People can talk about the video with Cardi B. Who cares? Like, well, what about prosecuting these officers? That's the WAP we need to focus on. So we got to get people focused on this. And the fact is that even with all this pressure, the cops still haven't been arrested that did this heinous crime. And had there not been any pressure, it would have been business as usual. They would have gone on, another black life taken because no-knock warrants were pretty much the standard until Breonna Taylor, and she had to be the sacrificial lamb for that. But it was what happened all the time. It was commonplace here within the United States, and there's no place for it. And people just didn't care because guess who? It affected black communities. They would only go into black areas, no-knock warrants, and kill people and just say, oh, oops, our bad. It's not your bad. Like, you've killed somebody, and you've taken a life. You've taken away a public servant, a good person. And there should be some penalties behind that, and someone should be held accountable, not only for their job, but also for their liberty.
All right, Rob and Misha. Robert and Amisha, surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, they have been a partner of Roland Martin Unfiltered since day one. And without them, this show could not have been possible. This week, they held their annual convention virtually. And Lee Saunders, who was the president of the organization, gave his keynote address. We wanted to share that with you. And so check this out. Lee Saunders, and then, of course, we'll end the show with our Bring the Funk Charter Club members. And, of course, I'll see you on Monday. Here we go.
This has been a year full of hardship and heartache for the AFSCME family and for the nation. Everything about the way we live and work, how we take care of our families, how we educate our children, how we engage with our communities, and how we band together in a union has been disrupted. No one has been unaffected. It took only a few weeks for the number of fatalities nationwide to exceed that of 9/11. For the last 5 months, standing 5 feet away from each other without a mask could have fatal consequences. We haven't experienced anything like this in our lifetimes. So much has changed, but one thing hasn't. AFSCME members' commitment to the job. If anything, it has gotten stronger, bolder, braver. We're at our best when things are at their worst. Even when it was hard, you didn't quit. Even in the most challenging moments, you provided hope. And even when many politicians failed, you delivered. We have said many times that public service isn't just a job, it's a calling. And AFSCME, during 2020, when your communities needed you most, you answered the call. Ebony Wallace answered the call. She's a UHCP nurse specializing in psychiatric care who works at a Kaiser mental health facility in Los Angeles.
When the pandemic hit, we were told that we cannot wear masks to work. The reason we could not wear masks to work was it would bring on fear for patients. But my union, we fought daily. We communicated and we really fought and we won. And we were able to wear masks at that point every single day.
Our OCSCA brother, Brian Miller, answered the call. He's a corrections officer at Marion Correctional Institution in Marion, Ohio, which was one of the nation's most dangerous hotspots.
I did contract the virus. I was bedridden for 10 days. As soon as I was better and I was cleared to go back to work, I was back to work because we were still in the middle of the virus. It was still devastating the institution, and I understood that if I didn't get back to work, that would be one more person, one more of my brothers, sisters that would have to stay over for 16 hours to take my place.
Kenji Warren of AFSCME Council 63 answered the call. He works on the back of a collection truck for the Department of Public Works in the township of Montclair, New Jersey.
During this pandemic, we've seen a lot more garbage, a lot more heavier. It's put a lot of wear and tear on our bodies, me and my coworkers. But even through all this heaviness and the pandemic, we pushed ourselves through it, and we just like to keep our community clean and keep on going.
In the middle of the worst public health crisis in a century, these AFSCME members and all of you have done your work with poise and professionalism, with courage and compassion. Make no mistake about it, you are frontline heroes, and AFSCME is never stronger. Hello, AFSCME family, and welcome. This is my 21st AFSCME convention, but it's the first one where I haven't been able to see you, to embrace you, to celebrate with you, and to recommit to the fight with you in person. But we're not going to let a global pandemic keep us from conducting our union's business or setting an agenda for the next few years. We don't need to be in the same room to do that. Social distancing does not preclude solidarity. The solidarity that powers our union isn't found in a convention hall in Los Angeles or anywhere else. It's embedded in our values. It runs through our veins. It lives in our hearts. A virtual convention will require us to adapt and adjust, just like we always do. We roll with the punches. We're all in this together, and we will do the important work required of us over the next 2 days. But before we go any further, let's honor the courageous members of our AFSCME family we've lost to COVID-19. Please join me in a moment of silence and extreme gratitude. When we last met in Boston 2 years ago, the Supreme Court had just dealt us what many thought would be a knockout blow in the Janus case. But the mean green machine doesn't hand over our rights and freedoms without a fight. In the face of an existential threat, we squared our shoulders and we stood our ground. We refused to let the wealthy special interests break our will. In overwhelming numbers, AFSCME's members stood up and said, "Hell no, I'm sticking with my union." Because we were AFSCME strong, because we had spent the previous years changing the culture of our union, we didn't just survive, we thrived. Let's take a look at the challenges we've met and the victories we've earned since 2018.
The race at the top of your ballot has been called. Gretchen Whitmer will be our state's next governor.
Like the social service workers across the state who help their fellow humans walk through their darkest hours.
What we did tonight is send a very clear message that this is a state that's ready to lead in so many ways.
Tonight, I want to say thank you to our union families that helped make this election happen.
For everything they do, they deserve a voice on the job. They deserve the freedom to negotiate for a fair return on their work, for decent wages, for working conditions that will keep them safe. It's been a long time coming. Today's signing of SB 135 is a bold and historic step. The largest expansion of state employee collective bargaining rights in any state since 2003.
For too long, you have been overlooked. For too long, you've been undervalued. For too long, you have been overworked. Well, that stops today because you now have a seat at the table.
But that's what the trade union movement is all about. Organizing together, having power together. This is the opportunity that we have.
AFSCME's story over the last 2 years is one of fearlessness under fire, resilience in the face of adversity. Whether it was politically motivated attacks on our right to exist or a global pandemic threatening the safety and stability of our communities, we have risen to the moment. If only the same could be said for the Trump White House, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and his caucus. In a moment of distress and despair for the nation, these politicians have demonstrated only cowardice and incompetence. There's an election 82 days from now, and we'll make sure voters know exactly which politicians failed to lead at this do-or-die moment in the nation's history. Which ones were indifferent to public health? Which ones ignored economic devastation and allowed working families to suffer? And because of the work we will do over the next 82 days, I believe we will expand the pro-worker majority in the House of Representatives, win control of the U.S. Senate, and also flip key governorships in state legislative chambers nationwide. And then there's the race for the most powerful office in the country. I could cite chapter and verse about the corruption, cruelty, and chaos of Donald Trump's presidency. I could go on and on about his record in kicking working people to the curb, about his appalling mismanagement of this crisis. But I think you know all that, and besides, it would just take too long. I'd rather tell you a little bit about the man who's going to take his job. Joe Biden is someone with the experience and steady hand we need at this moment. Joe Biden is a proven fighter for working people who understands that the union difference means better jobs and stronger communities. Joe Biden cares more about progress than partisanship. He will extend a hand across the aisle, bringing people together to get things done for working families and move this nation forward. And tomorrow, you will hear from him in his own words as Vice President Biden joins us to talk more about his agenda for change. For us, the stakes in this election go beyond policy differences. It cuts deeper than that. Every time Donald Trump tries to stoke racial resentment and turn Americans against one another, every time he degrades women, the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities, immigrants, African Americans, and all people of color, he's attacking the unshakable core principles that define our union. We stand for everything Donald Trump denigrates and despises. It's in our nature to bring people together, to lift up the vulnerable, to heal and protect in times of distress, to rally everyone around our common humanity. We stand for the idea that an injury to one is an injury to all. We believe in equality and opportunity, in tolerance and inclusion, in dignity and justice for every individual. And we believe that Black lives matter. AFSCME family, we practice what we preach. We walk the walk. We will lead in this space. We are committed to expanding our own policies and procedures so we can identify, address, and root out any bias that might exist, allowing us to become a better, stronger union. And we will engage with all of our affiliates to ensure they are doing the same. It isn't enough to pay lip service to these principles. We must live them every single day, because that's who we are, AFSCME family. The murder of George Floyd and others has once again exposed the systemic racial injustices that have plagued our country for hundreds of years. But the rising wave of activism in recent months is more than a reaction to incidents of police violence. It's also anguish over generations of institutional racism, of underinvestment in Black and brown communities. It's anger about a rigged system that privileges people already standing on third base, while millions of people of color can't even buy a ticket to the game. You know, I have 3 young grandsons, one of whom was born just a few months ago. It is my hope that they will become men in a country that doesn't just recognize that their lives matter, but that their lives matter just the same as anyone else's. And someday, I'll tell my grandsons about an American giant whom we lost last month, civil rights pioneer and Georgia Congressman John Lewis. John was a man of unsurpassed courage who did not flinch in staring down bigotry and brutality, who took nightsticks to the skull, who was burned with cigarettes, who was arrested more than 40 times, all to move us toward greater freedom, justice, and equality. And now he's passing the mantle on to us. John Lewis wrote in his memoir, "Every generation leaves behind a legacy. What that legacy will be is determined by the people of that generation." What legacy do you want to leave behind? Let our legacy be that we were agitators and disruptors, that we caused good trouble, as John Lewis called it, that we picked up where he left off, that we, with our own rich civil rights history, helped repair America's racial breach. Let our legacy be that we helped the nation rise from the ashes of this current crisis, that we helped turn this moment of anxiety and turbulence into a catalyst for profound structural change. It's up to us, AFSCME. The last 4 years have frayed our social fabric and rattled the nation's psyche. Because of who we are, we must show the way. At this moment of fracture, tension, and unrest, the values that have always defined our union have never been needed more. Our moral leadership has never been needed more. We are on the front lines, AFSCME family, leading not just the nation's struggle against COVID-19, but the struggle to restore the American promise. It's a tall order, but I know we're up to the task. And so I'm asking you today to stand up and join me in continuing John Lewis's work. Stand up and defend AFSCME's values against those who benefit from rancor and division. Stand up for your coworkers and your union, and also for your neighbors and your community. Stand up with courage and conviction, with pride and with passion. Stand up for dignity and respect. Stand up for fairness and freedom. Stand up for social, economic, and racial justice. Stand up and cause good trouble. Thank you very much.